Mark Cook, and I am really excited because on the Skype line right now, I have a New York Times best-selling author on the line. She has been featured in Vanity Fair, her best-selling book, Six of Crows, and now the sequel is out, Crooked Kingdom. Well, it's coming out, right? It's already #1 in pre-sales on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you could fact-check me on that. The film rights for her books have already been snatched up by DreamWorks, and this book is perfect for readers 14 and up. Crooked Kingdom, so anticipated. Good morning to Leigh Bardugo. Good morning, Leigh, and welcome to Morning Coffee.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
You're quite welcome. All right, so this series of books, now Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, we call this a duology, right? Because there's two of them now. This universe is awesome.
Thank you.
So I want to just read the back because it talks a little bit. I think this is the best description. Harry Potter meets Game of Thrones with a dash of 19th century Europe with a caper twist. That to me sounds so attractive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a magical heist book, you know? Like, I originally described it as Ocean's 11 meets Game of Thrones, but then we realized nobody under 20 had seen Ocean's 11, so we had to start adding some other things to the mix. But yeah, it's a classic heist story. Build a team and break into an impenetrable fortress, hope you can get back out again.
Yeah, it's really a cool story. But how is like writing about a heist different than writing about like a con job or something like that? Because it's got to be definitely a different scenario.
I mean, heists and cons are just incredibly challenging. They're different than every other kind of narrative. Like, give me a nice linear battle scene anytime.
Right.
I think that you're conning whoever the mark is in the story, you know, and you're also conning the reader, and the reader wants to be conned, and you're really working towards these reveals where sometimes the plan has gone to hell, and sometimes you think the plan has gone to hell, but really one of the characters has something up his sleeve the whole time. So it's really, you know, it's challenging yourself to create more twists and turns and to release information to the reader in these pretty complicated ways. I don't think if I'd known how hard it was going to be, I necessarily would have written that first book, but maybe it's best that I didn't know.
No, Leigh, we're really glad that you did because these books are fantastic, and you know, your story is quite an amazing one. Born in Jerusalem, growing up in California, now you work in LA and you write in LA. It's just so awesome. So, like, your point of view is really cool, right? You've had such amazing experiences, but your characters in your books, it's written from their points of view. So I imagine you have a huge whiteboard and you have to keep notes across like all of the wall of the whiteboard, right? How do you write from all these different points of view?
Yeah, I mean, it does get, you know, I just kind of call by any means necessary. I write in Word, I write in Scrivener, I write on a whiteboard, I write on index cards. When I was building the heist, I even started putting it into my Google Calendar on my phone so I could get updates of where the characters were in the 15-minute intervals. You know, anything that works essentially to get you through the draft. And I think the biggest challenge, I actually really liked writing 6 different character POVs because you really get to challenge yourself on language and you really get to inhabit somebody else's life for a little while, whereas the Grisha trilogy was, you know, first-person POV, so if you got sick of them, there was no place to run.
Well, what I think is amazing, and I think people should take notice, is that look at all of the hard work that you did to put into this book. That's what it takes to create a great story like Crooked Kingdom. So for all you potential authors out there, you've got to do your homework, you've got to do your work, you've got to put in the work to be able to create a great story. So, Leigh, I got to ask you a couple more things here. I know I'm going to run out of time. So tell me about, like, why are you so driven to write these complex characters? Because they're so multi-layered. That's what makes them so interesting.
You know, that's a peculiar question because I don't think anybody sets out to write shadow characters. I mean, you mentioned that you may have writers in your audience, and I guess I would say if you're working on a project like this or really anything to to let yourself get to know your characters over the course of your draft. Like I always say, my first draft is like an awkward first date.
Right.
You know, you're just kind of like you don't know the characters that well. I've never been the kind of person who writes, you know, complicated character histories before I sit down. I plot, but I don't know them yet, and so it's just that kind of like, you know, you're writing them in these moments, these high stakes moments, these romantic moments, these moments of revelation where they're suddenly realizing they have the strength to do something, and it feels completely false in that first draft because they're not whole people yet. But I think that that's the discomfort of writing a bad first draft, and I think for me, you know, that's how I really became an author, was getting comfortable with failure, essentially, and the feeling of failing daily in that first draft, and then going back in revision, and there really getting to know these characters and build the layers into them that will make them worth watching go through these incredible situations and heists.
Yeah, your perspective is absolutely fantastic, and I hope that people really hear what you're saying and it resonates, because this is the true process of an artist, of an author, of anyone who is creative, and this is how it's got to happen. But you actually have a really good message along with what you're trying to do, is because you're trying to bring a little bit of awareness to this terrible, terrible thing of sex trafficking. And you've gotten involved with the Girls Educational and Mentoring Services. It's also known as GEMS. How did this all come about? Because a portion of the book sales of Crooked Kingdom, which you can get on Amazon, pre-order it on Amazon right now, a portion of the book sales are going to help GEMS. So how did that come about, Leigh?
Yeah, well, we ended up donating 10% of my book sales from my fall tour, my Troublemakers tour, to promote Crooked Kingdom to GEMS, and my publisher, Macmillan, was kind enough to match me up to $3,000. And we're also trying to put out some clothing that has, there's a place called the University of Ketterdam in the books, so we're trying to make that available, and all profits will go to GEMS. Yeah, look, this is an issue a lot of people shy away from. It's an issue where often the victims of sex trafficking get blamed for what happened to them. There's some idea that they somehow made a choice to be there, and they've been very underserved by social services agencies, and GEMS is doing incredible work with them. There's a character in my book, Dinesh, who was trafficked as a young girl into a brothel.
Oh man, Leigh dropped out. You know, when we do these things, sometimes they're on a hard timeline, and 820 came about, and they dropped her out on me. I mean, that's not my favorite thing in the world, since we were in the middle of a conversation, but it's all good. I'm going to urge you guys to go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon and pick up and pre-order a copy of Crooked Kingdom. And I want to thank Leigh Bardugo for joining me this morning on Morning Coffee. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this.
Sub some sizzle. This is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Simply Gents, located in Marlton, New Jersey, takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facial, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
If you haven't been to Speed Raceway, what are you waiting for? You want to live fast? You want to make every second count? Then grab the family. Round up the guys. Speed Raceway is 100,000 square feet of excitement, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart. Speed Raceway is the place for endless fun all summer long. Log on to speedraceway.com or just get here now.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing?